Well, what you saw is election day and all of the optimism expressed by all of the candidates that you see there. But the backstory is that that election had two candidates, of the APC vying for that one slot. That is why the APC was declared winner, but no candidate was returned by INEC. So why? Of course, yesterday while we were talking about elections, yesterday you also listened to one of our our discussants talking about it and saying, this is one of those issues that we need to deal with. So let's get some perspective on this and why we have two candidates of the same party in the same state, in the same senatorial zone, contesting the same election. Two gentlemen join us for now. We hope to have a third. Victor Giwa is of the APC in Imo State, and he is of one of the factions, and he's right there beside him is the PDP chieftain in Imo State, speaking for his own candidate, Meka Okulonu, Uche Onyinye Jocha, as well as Einaya Onwegbo, who has just joined us via the virtual platform. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us this morning. Let's begin with you, Mr. Giwa. So give us a backstory. Just what are we dealing with here?
All right, thank you very much. Good morning. First of all, I want to correct that introduction. I am not of the APC. I'm in the team, the legal team of the Senator Ifeanyi Aragome's legal team representing the Imo North, Senatorial district. So I'm just a lawyer and I'm in his legal team. So I'm not a card-carrying member of the APC. So I just need to get that part straightened up. Yeah, well, thank you very much. Well, like you said, there have been a lot of issues, regarding the Imo North, Senatorial district by-election that was conducted on the 5th of December. That was just last Saturday. And of course, the result has been announced, and the APC has been declared to be the winner of that election. However, there's still a conflict in terms of representation, who is the candidate of the APC in that election. And the reason is this. Prior to that election, there were primaries conducted by the APC, sometimes on the 3rd of September 2020. The primaries was conducted in Okigwe. It had about 11 aspirants who contested, including, of course, our client, our candidate, that is Senator Ifeanyi Aragome. And of course, with one of the controversial candidates, which is Frank Mbezem, amongst others. The background to it was that Mr. Frank Mbezem, who is contending against our candidate, and some other persons, about 6 of them, were actually disqualified from participating in the APC by-election primaries that was held on the 3rd of September 2020. And his disqualification was based on the screening committee of the APC. And the basis was that he presented some certificates that was declared to be forged.
Mr. Giwa, who disqualified this candidate that you're talking about? Who disqualified him?
The screening committee of the APC as established under the APC guideline.
Okay, let me very quickly ask the same question of Mr. Einaya Onwegbo, who joins us, virtually. So you just heard him. Can you confirm that that is true, that your candidate, Frankie Mbezem, was actually disqualified?
Well, good morning. Thank you. It looks like Channels has become the destination point for angry politicians from Imo State. The point is that Frankie Mbezem, up to the time of contesting the primaries, the declaration of that result was never disqualified. The story of being disqualified came out of a press conference in Abuja 2 days after he had been declared the winner of the primaries. I challenge anybody to produce any statement or any video clip of an announcement by the screening committee, because the work of the screening committee is subject under the Constitution to a decision of the party NEC. Let them bring a decision of the NEC that disqualified Frank Ibezim, who we all know was a student of Imo State University, who had served as a commissioner in Imo State, who was a chief of staff to the late distinguished Senator Benjo Wajimogu. He was never disqualified. It was because there was a faction that went and held their own primaries outside that, other than the party. That group went and brought a report that Frank Ibezim was disqualified after the declaration of results, and went to court against their other opponents without joining Frank Ibezim in the litigation. So this is a contrived plot. Let them produce the decision of NEC of our party, ratify any so-called screening committee decision. Because on the eve of the primaries, we all were at the ESCO chambers, all the aspirants, the party structure, and the government appointees. We were there, and nobody talked about disqualification. Everybody agreed on the eve of the primaries to participate in that primaries. It was after the result had been declared in his favor that this story of disqualification came up.
Okay, we'll just...
As at the eve,
Just one moment.
Yes.
We'll discuss other issues on this one, but let me go to Mr. Onyejocha. But just so you know, Mr. Onegbu, our interest is not in the politicians. It's in the interest of the people of Imo State who are at this moment being disenfranchised, because as we speak, they have elected, according to the Constitution, a member of a political party through the political party. But right now, we do not have any representation. Consequently, that is why you are also here to help us clear the air. So back to you, Mr. Onyejocha. So this is happening, and you are in the opposition in Imo State, in this particular senatorial constituency. Just what do you make of all of this going on?
Thank you very much. The operating law in Nigeria for the declaration of a winner in an election is guided by Section 69 of the Electoral Act and Sections 133, 134, and 179 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. And those provisions simply says that it is the candidate who wins the highest number of votes that should be declared the winner in an election. In this election of Imo North Senatorial Zone, INEC has openly admitted that APC does not have a candidate, because if APC had a candidate, they would have declared that candidate the winner of the election. INEC is running in violation of the law by declaring APC the winner. The winner of that election is Chief Emma Okewulono of the PDP, and he should be declared the winner of the election. It is not our fault, it is not our problem that APC is not able to resolve the issue of their candidature. According to my friend Giwa, who spoke first, he said their primary election took place on the 3rd of September. One Frank Ibezim emerged the winner. His name was filed, and we went into the field contesting the election, campaigning. And I believe that if he were not the candidate, it is for APC to sort out. And this election ought to have been held. The period to file, remove, or substitute a candidate has since expired. But came November 6, 2020, one Senator, Ifeanyi Ararume, was announced the winner of a court judgment by a federal high court, replacing the same Frank Ibezim. The next thing we saw, the two of them went into the field, and they have been campaigning equally as joint candidates. Ararume's posters are all over the place in Okiwe, and the Frank Ibezim's posters are all over the place. So both of them went into the field campaigning. We complained to INEC that we do not know who we are contesting against, and they should actually get this thing resolved, because it was improper to have two candidates campaigning as people holding the same position in the same political party. While all this was going on, by December 4th, a day before the election, two court judgments were thrown into the field. one purporting to be disqualifying Ifeanyi Ararume, and another one kicking out Frankie Bezim. So we went into this election with nobody as candidate of the APC. And at the end of the election, INEC seeing that we won the election, being the only candidate and the runners-up to the election because we had 31,000 votes plus, according to INEC, while PDP, APC proposed to have 36,000 votes plus. They should have declared us the winners of the election and allow APC to sort out themselves, because we're not going to wait for them to sort out themselves before a candidate will be declared as the winner of that election. Because tomorrow they might throw up Omegra, and next tomorrow they might throw up Owajimogu or any of the other aspirants who were in the field.
Well, Mr. Onyegocha, it would seem you're trying to do the job of INEC, which is electoral umpire, by declaring the winner of this election. But clearly, INEC has done that. And that brings up the classic question. And Mr. Giwa, I'd like you to weigh in on this. Do the people vote for the party or the candidate? Because clearly, it would seem as though the APC is still not decided on who their candidate is, but people voted the party in the election. So who did the people really vote for, the candidate or the party?
Well, it is a question of the chicken before the egg or the egg before the chicken. But if you look at it constitutionally, the provision is that for a person to contest for an election, he must be sponsored by the political party. So the first place, it is the political party. It is the party that is the vehicle. It's like driving a vehicle or a commercial, a commuter, going out there to the street, and you see a vehicle that is conveying you to a particular location, and you intend to identify who the driver is. So it is the vehicle that you want to enter, the vehicle that is taking you to a particular destination. So, and in the strength of the case of Amechi versus INEC, the Supreme Court have also said that it is the political party, if you could remember that landmark judgment, where the Supreme Court said, well, Amechi never contested. It was the party, the PDP then, that contested the election. And of course, the Supreme Court made an order, a consequential order that the candidate of the party that won that election should be sworn in. So in the first place, it is the party that is. That is why in the ballot, you don't see the pictures of candidates. What you see is the logo of the political party. So based on the Constitution and the Electoral Act and the decided authorities of the Supreme Court, it is the political party that is the vehicle. People subscribe to the political party. When you want to vote, people look at the manifesto of the political party.
So then in the light of what you're saying, Mr. Giwa, in the light of what you have said, which of these candidates, in your opinion, did the political party select? Because from the reports and statements put out by the National Working Committee, it is the candidature was given to Frankie Bezim and not to Mr. Ifeanyi Ararume.
Yes, I can tell you for free. I think we need to follow it carefully and systematically so that you can get the gist. Now, like I was saying, and which my other colleague there, he misconstrued and misconceived, with due respect to him, some of the facts. Now, the APC is bounded by its guidelines and its constitution. And paragraph 3 of the APC guideline to primaries says that only aspirants who have been cleared can contest a primary election. The candidacy of Ipezim and 5 others were disqualified by the screening committee of the APC. They appealed against the screening committee. And the screening committee appeal unit, the appeal screening committee, upheld that disqualification and cleared 7 others, including my candidate, Senator Ifeanyi Ararume, to participate in the primary election that was slated for 3rd of September.
If this is correct, if this what you have said, Mr. Giwa, just a moment, if what you have said is the correct position, how come the APC National Working Committee is not aware of what you are talking about right now? And they put out a statement to validate the position of a specific person who is not your client.
Yeah, the reason why they did that to me is, and to us, it's a bit baffling. That is some of the issues we are having with internal politicking, where some persons who have, vested interest in a state, people like I call emperors, governors. We want to muzzle up the political party and try to suppress the voice of rule of law and,
Giwa,
internal democracy.
don't forget
like
that,
said,
just a moment, Mr. Giwa. Don't forget that the candidature of Mr. Ibezim was validated by the party's Extraordinary National Planning Committee, chaired by Governor Mai Mala Buni, who is, of course, his position in the APC at this time. And so consequently, this is what has happened. So it isn't your client that was validated by the National Working Committee, and it wasn't even the governor that made this statement. So where are you going with the name of the governor being mentioned here?
Mr. Moderator, sorry, we are not here for Mr. Giwa because you've asked him a previous question 3 times. So if you want to do an interview for him, you invite him alone.
No,
he has been allowed to answer 3 times, so I must come in. I won't let him proceed.
Okay, just go ahead. If you have anything to say.
Let me clarify that point.
Okay.
Mr. Giwa is saying that he has seen the vehicle, that it is the APC that is the vehicle. So why is he quarreling since APC has been declared winner? He should go home and celebrate. The only reason why he cannot celebrate is that the law says only a candidate of a party can be declared a winner. APC doesn't have a candidate. We must go back to the fact that in 2019, when this election was conducted, PDP won the election. While the result was being collated, the returning officer, like this time around, declared APC the winner. So we will not allow this injustice to go a second time around.
Okay.
What needed to have been done is that whoever is filed as candidate of the APC should have been on the ballot. That is the person who should have been in the field contesting against.
Not what, Mr. Joshua, just one moment. Gentlemen, just one moment.
The person at September.
If you go to INEC website.
Just one moment. Gentlemen, just one moment. Just one moment, gentlemen. Just one moment. Let's take this to Mr. Onwegbo in Owerri at this moment. So this is where we have right now, and it would seem like a court order has stopped your candidate from going ahead, from being announced as the candidate, as the winner of this election. So what is the way forward now for your candidate, given these court orders that are conflicting?
Thank you very much. Mr. Giwa's client is claiming candidacy by virtue of a judgment of a federal high court. That case, Frankie Bezin was not sued. He went to Court of Appeal and obtained a judgment that set aside the judgment of the federal high court. Now the Court of Appeal is superior to that federal high court. Why are they still banding the name of his client as candidate? Now, as to Mr. Onyagocha, he has not told you that the candidacy of for any election for a party is subject to judicial interpretation. That is why we have pre-election cases. Until a pre-election case ends, he cannot really claim what he's claiming. That is why in the past, in the case of Senator and our present governor, it was the Supreme Court that affirmed the owner of the ticket in line with the judgment in the Rotimi case. Now, we are not talking about a contest between PDP and APC in primaries. It's a contest internal to the party APC. And the decision of the party is that proceeds from the neck of the party or the National Working Committee of the party that actually set up a screening committee. Why are they not referring to the decision of the neck or the National Working Committee of the party on who is our candidate? Why did they have to go to court if they didn't know that Frankie Bezin was the candidate? They went to court because they know Frankie Bezin was the candidate ab initio. They were in a pre-election, pre-primaries meeting where Frankie Bezin was announced as one of the candidates. The results published showed that Frankie Bezin who the highest number of votes and was number 1 on a list of 12 candidates who aspired for that position. Why are they playing politics with everything in Imo? The story of trying to bring in the governor is embarrassing because the governor is not from Okigwe zone. They seem to forget that the late Senator Benju Wajibobu had his chief of staff as Frankie Bezim, and that structure delivered Frankie Bezim. We must bear in mind that mentioning the governor's name is like looking for salt to make a soup tasty. They must look for salt because the story will be tasty all over the world. Imo people know who they voted for, APC. And in the last election, APC also won. The candidate of APC is the winner of the election. If PDP
you also know,
grounds,
Mr.
Onogo, file a petition.
Just one moment, Mr. Onogo. You also know that at this point, INEC has declared APC as winner of the election, but could not mention the name of any particular candidate because of these court judgments. So what do we do?
Well, we should say they have not, because you remember, on the eve of the election, 2 judgments came. The election was on Saturday. By Friday, 2 judgments came. And INEC, as a bureaucracy, in due process, must verify the judgments and give an interpretation. They have not declared a winner in terms of candidacy. They have declared a winner in terms of political party. And the victory and the election contested belong to the political party, the vehicle. Let us not make mountain out of molehill. INEC knows that the Court of Appeal judgments overrides any federal high court judgment, and ordinarily should have announced the man declared by the Court of Appeal as the candidate of the party, which is Frankie Bezim. And we believe it is not too late yet to announce it. If anybody has an anger about it, the person should go to an election petition tribunal, not telling us what happened 4 years ago, how PDP won. Where did PDP win? The case went to the tribunal, went to the Court of the Appeal Tribunal, and Benju Wajibobu, may God rest his soul, won the cases. So let us keep ourselves guided by the law. Everybody knows that the judgment of a court supersedes the decision of a party in candidacy, and until the final court pronounces.
All right, Mr. Onogo, just one moment. Just a moment, Mr. Onogo. Let's take a break for a few messages, and when we return, we'll be able to cap this all up. Do stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. So, Mr. Giwa, you want to speak to the comment made by Mr. Onogo earlier about the superiority of the appeal court over that of the High Court, where your client got a judgment from.
Yeah, thank you very much. You can see why I firstly mentioned the governor of the state. You saw his proclamation to say that the candidate of the APC was Frankie Bezim. But let me go to the issue raised by Owogu in terms of the Court of Appeal. Now, you need to understand that on the 6th of November, the Federal High Court in Owerri declared Senator Ifeanyi Aragume as the valid candidate for the APC by a consequential order. Just like the governor has enjoyed the product of a court ruling, the governor today in Imo State is there because of the decision of the Supreme Court, which was obeyed by all parties, even when they have issues with that decision. And so I expected that when that order was given, so he made reference to the Court of Appeal. Now, in the case of the Federal High Court decision in Owerri that was delivered on the 6th, the Federal High Court said Senator Ifeanyi Aragume is the only candidate of the party. And his name was entered, his name was retained by INEC. Now, on the 4th, on the 4th of December, the Court of Appeal in Owerri upturned that decision and said that the word of the Court of Appeal was that that decision was set aside. But on the same date, a Federal High Court in Abuja declared the same Frank Mbezem as being patently disqualified to contest that election on the basis of false declaration, perjury, false information given as to his documents, acts done to give himself advantage over his qualification. And so the only thing left is the name of Senator Ifeanyi Aragume as the candidate of APC. And Senator Ifeanyi Aragume has also filed a motion for stay of that order in Court of Appeal. So assuming without conceding that the Court of Appeal has made a pronouncement to set aside the decision of the Federal High Court, which my brother there in Imo State alleged it seems to be basing their position on. That decision of the Court of Appeal was to set aside the judgment of the Federal High Court in Owerri. Now there is a judgment on the same date that have said, okay, why the Court of Appeal have said, oh, that judgment is set aside. The Frank Ibezim cannot be the candidate of the party. So as it stands right now, it is not a matter of whether the Court of Appeal is of a higher court than the Federal High Court. It is what is the subtractum, what is on ground. So Senator Ifeanyi Aragume is now the candidate. Is still the subsisting candidate.
It's quite
APC
intriguing. It's quite intriguing
reasons.
to see the
One,
interpretations of the court rulings. I mean, both sides. I mean, you understand that that's what lawyers do. But before I get Mr. Onwegbu's response, I'd like to take up Mr. Onyegocha on an issue he spoke to. That's the result of the election. And you say that the PDP won, when clearly INEC declared that the APC polled 36,811 votes and the PDP got 31,903 votes. I mean, you don't need a mathematician to tell you that the APC clearly won that election according to INEC. And some are saying, isn't this just being opportunistic? Because clearly the APC won this election.
Not allow a party to win election without a candidate. If votes are cast for a party whose candidate is not known, that candidate would not be allowed to be declared winner because only their candidate can be declared winner. So for the purpose of this election, APC obviously did not have a candidate. And INEC acknowledged that by not pronouncing their candidate the winner. So the appropriate thing in law is to declare the PDP candidate the winner, while APC takes the whole time in the world to sort out themselves. Now, what we are facing as at this moment is a case of APC dragging the judiciary into the mud. Look at the three different court judgments they obtained. The one of November 6th, and at which period the time for substitution of a candidate has elapsed. Now, once the time for substitution of a candidate has elapsed in law, you can take your time to do your case up to the Supreme Court. INEC had no business introducing Ifeanyi Aragume into the race, because by introducing Ifeanyi Aragume, by virtue of that judgment of November 6th, allowed an opportunity for the two of them to be contesting and campaigning in the election against our candidate. And by getting two judgments on the same day, November 4th, the day before the election, the APC once again dragged the judiciary into the mud by creating further confusion with the judgment from the Court of Appeal and another judgment from the Federal High Court. One disqualifying Ifeanyi Aragume and the other one disqualifying Frank Ibezim. So we went into the field without a candidate. And I am saying the appropriate thing is that they should have gone to the Supreme Court. Allow us to run election with only one candidate. In the absence of a defined candidate, which is clear from what INEC did, the INEC should declare Chief Emma Okewulono, the PDP candidate, as the winner of the election, being the second runner-up. There is nothing opportunistic about it. APC has never been able to put their house in order, and there are too many of their other aspirants still in court saying that they are still the candidates of this election. My good friend, Matthew Omegra, is in court claiming that he is the candidate for the purpose of the Okigwe senatorial election which took place. So are we going to have to wait forever for them to sort out themselves?
You know, that's the same that's the same question,
because to enjoy the benefit of the election we won.
Understood, but you know, the decision will be at INEC's level, or maybe at the courts, not at the parties level, which is what I wanted to clear out. Mr. Honorable, now reacting to some of the issues Mr. Giwa raised, especially before the primaries. Right, understood. Pardon me. Let me take on Mr. Honorable so we can have a rounded conversation because of our time. Now, before the primaries, there was this screening committee, the Imo North Senatorial Screening Committee, that disqualified your candidate. And I mean, in law, you say you can't build nothing, or rather something on nothing. So referring to that, people are saying, especially for the other candidate, they're saying, well, he wasn't even meant to participate in the primaries in the first place.
That is not the position. I said it before, that on the eve of the primaries, every aspirant attended a meeting with the organizing committee from Abuja, from the national headquarters of the party. Let them produce a video clip of the organizing committee declaring any aspirant as disqualified. They went into the field and contested. Frankie Bezin won. It was 48 hours after the victory that the story via a video clip from one hotel in Abuja that emerged saying Frankie Bezin was disqualified. And somebody went to court at the Federal High Court of Owerri and sued the party and other aspirants without suing the Frankie Bezin who had been declared winner. It is that case that brought the judgment of the Federal High Court that Mr. Giwa's client is relied on. And mind you, by November 4th, Frankie Bezin had been in the field campaigning as the only candidate of the party. When that judgment came, Frankie Bezin went to the Court of Appeal. In obedience to the hierarchy of courts, the Court of Appeal set aside the judgment of that Federal High Court. So INEC was bound ab initio, like they obeyed the putting around name, to put Frankie Bezin or announce him as a candidate following the Court of Appeal judgment. But because some mischievous persons went forum shopping in Abuja, there's a Federal High Court in Imo State, and the law is that you do a case where the defendants are based. The cause of action arose in Imo State. Who went to Abuja to do what? Is the Federal High Court in Abuja not aware of the judgment of the Federal High Court in Owerri that had been set aside by the Court of Appeal? That is what we call in law forum shopping. So
just as we wind down,
to get that order.
As we wind down, just one issue I'd like you to respond to, because people cast their mind back to what happened in Zamfara State, and we know how your party lost out in that, and they're saying, well, maybe that will happen in this case. So the question now is, the APC has a NEC meeting today, and you would expect these issues to be tabled. Would you say you trust the NEC to resolve this? Whatever comes out, you're going to take that?
The matter is a matter, internal affair of the party, resolvable by the NEC or by court judgment. And the highest court judgment pending is the one in favor of Frankie Bezin. And I believe in due time, INEC will do the needful like they did in the past by declaring Frankie Bezin as the winner.
Okay, Mr. Giwa.
Who has a grasp should go to an election petition tribunal.
Right, Mr. Giwa is your candidate.
That thing Onyakucha is saying is wishful thinking.
Right. Pardon me, Mr. Giwa. So looking at the APC NEC meeting today, is your candidate comfortable with whatever resolution comes out of that meeting regarding who should represent Imo North Senatorial District?
My candidate will be comfortable because, firstly, the issue is prejudice. The issue is before the court. So I don't think the National Working Committee will sit as an appeal against a judicial process. That first of all, the judgment of the Court of Appeal have been stayed. My client have filed his motion for stay and his notice of appeal. So I believe that the National Working Committee, that is a legal, I believe they have lawyers who will advise them. I believe they believe in rule of law. I believe they are going to retain. They are going to say, okay, for the purpose of the court judgment, in order not to disrupt the legal,
Mr. Giwa,
the status quo.
Yeah, Mr. Giwa, just a moment. Well, you know that the National Working Committee already put out a statement, so I don't know how they're going to, opt on their own previous decision. But we have to thank you very much for your time this morning, gentlemen. Victor Giwa is counsel to Mr. Ararume, who contested that election, along with Mr. Frankie Bezin, who's represented here by Ina Onwegbu, who joined us virtually, as well as a PDP chieftain in Imo State, Uche Onyejocha. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time and your opinions this morning. Sunrise Daily takes one last look at just one segment, and then we're done. Stay with us.